Welcome back, everybody. I'm Naha. This is 30 Days of Tarot, coming to you from the couch today like a somewhat normal person. And to be honest, I am just glad that we got through yesterday's video because there was a lot of collective consensus that you guys were not feeling that deck. And it was an affirmation to me to know that just because you guys don't like the deck doesn't mean you don't like the video, because you gave the video a thumbs up even though you gave the deck a thumbs down. I really appreciate that, and please stay to the end of this video because I'm going to be giving a shout out to all of my subscribers, all of my tried and trues who have been really supporting the channel lately, especially supporting this series. I just want to acknowledge you guys and let you know how much I appreciate it and how grateful I am for you guys being here. So we're going to get into this deck today, and to be quite honest, again, today we're taking a little departure. I can't exactly call this a tarot. I mean, I won't call this a tarot, but I will say that this is tarot adjacent. It's not even really an oracle deck, but it is a deck. So what has come to me today has arrived by Royal Mail. So came from somewhere in the UK. And I feel like this is going to be something that might be interesting to people, definitely beyond the realm of tarot, music lovers, and especially people that like sort of rock and roll memorabilia, stuff like that. So what we've got today is a deck that was created by the well-known musician Brian Eno and his collaborator Peter Schmidt. Now, Eno was the founder of the glam rock band Roxy Music, and he has been a big innovator in the electronic music scene. And since the 70s, he's just been a real pioneer in music. He's a sound designer, producer. He's worked with everyone from Devo to David Bowie, Grace Jones, Laurie Anderson, U2. He produced the band Talking Heads. And his methodology is described as theory over practice, serendipity over forethought, and texture over craft. So some of you might have heard of this deck before. I'm really excited to finally own one, and this is called Oblique Strategies. This deck has been referenced in movies, books, comic books, songs. REM had a lyric about it in one of their songs. It was featured in the movie Slacker. So there's a chance that you might have seen this because it definitely is something that's woven into contemporary culture. This is actually the second time that I've bought this deck because the first one I bought as a gift for somebody years ago. And you know when you buy somebody a gift but it's something that you actually really want? Well, at the time, I knew that this person was really a music lover and I thought that they would really enjoy it, and they did, but I was kind of sitting over there coveting it like, someday I'm gonna have to get one for myself. So I did finally. And even though this is an older edition, this is the 2001 edition, this deck is going online. You can find it on eBay for crazy amounts. I mean, you'll see it anywhere from like $200 to $1,000. You don't need to pay that much. You can buy this from actually Eno Shop, and I will leave the link down below. And it comes out to around $52 US. It's 40 pounds. So it's still not cheap, but you do not have to pay $200 some for it. It might be that you're getting an older edition, but I'll let you know in a minute something that I found where you might even be able to get this even cheaper. So as I open up this box, it says Oblique Strategies over 100 Worthwhile Dilemmas. Brian Eno and Peter Schmidt, 5th, again, slightly revised edition, 2001. Originally released in 1975, very wonderful year, as that was the year that I was born, and also the year that the Mountain Dream Tarot came out that we looked at a few episodes ago. So one of the things that I love about this deck is how it came to be was actually that these two people, Schmidt and Eno, were both individually working on a project. They'd both come up with this idea. They were doing it without the other one's knowledge, and when they found out that they were both doing it, basically each of them were creating their own half of this. They were like, oh my God, we're both doing the same thing. Let's collaborate our ideas, put it together, publish it as a deck. These cards are intended to spur creative thinking. And this deck actually has its own Wikipedia page, which says each card offers a challenging constraint intended to help artists, particularly musicians, break creative blocks by encouraging lateral thinking. In other words, thinking out of the box. And although this is intended maybe for musicians or artists, I think that anybody, we all encounter dilemmas. We all need to have creative strategies, and we all need to break through and think in this larger, open-minded kind of way when we're going about our life. So I don't think at all that it's just limited to musical issues or what you might think of as like artistic creative problems. So let's go ahead and take a look. And they're just cards with black on the back. There's no imagery here. It's just words. So the first one's the title card. The second one says, these cards evolved from separate observations of the principles underlying what we were doing. Sometimes they were recognized in retrospect, intellect catching up with intuition. Sometimes they were identified as they were happening, and sometimes they were formulated. They can be used as a pack, a set of possibilities being continuously reviewed in the mind, or by drawing a single card from the shuffled pack when a dilemma occurs in a working situation. In this case, the card is trusted even if its appropriateness is quite unclear. They are not final, as new ideas will present themselves and others will become self-evident. I love that statement. In this case, the card is trusted even if its appropriateness is quite unclear. If there was ever a sentence that applied to the tarot, that is it. And I might have said this in other videos. I'll be doing a reading for somebody and we'll see a card and somebody will say, I don't think that makes sense for the question that I was asking. That seems like it applies to a different question. That doesn't make sense for the person I'm asking about. It seems like it applies to a different person. And I always tell people, stop thinking that we pulled the wrong card. Is the placement wrong? Could it actually have been meant for something else? You have to just go with the flow and trust that the card that you're pulling is the one that you're meant to pull for what it is that you're asking. And if it doesn't seem immediately obvious, what are you doing a reading for if all of the answers were immediately obvious anyway? You wouldn't even need the cards, right? So allow yourself to trust what comes out. So we're not going to go through this deck one card at a time. I'm just going to go ahead, I'm not going to shuffle them either, but I'm just going to pull a one card draw to get a message so that you guys can kind of see what it is that we're dealing with here. So I'd like all of you who are watching to go ahead and think about a situation in your life that's happening right now and something that maybe you need a little bit of a creative outlook for what your next step or your next approach could be with that. And the answer is, I like this. Be extravagant. Think big. I feel like that's kind of a green light telling you guys that you can go do something nice for yourselves, treat yourself to something. Sometimes there's value in appreciating the simple pleasures. Sometimes there's value in being a little bit more fancy, right? Extravagant. So it was 1970 and Schmidt was creating basically what turned out to be the prototype for this deck. And he called it the thoughts behind the thoughts. Basically what he was doing is he was taking unused prints from his studio and he was writing these little messages on them and just these one sentence things. Let's take a look at a few more of these. Make something implied more definite. Reinforce or duplicate. The next one says, this is good. What would your closest friend do? They make you think. Oh my God, this one's so good. What do I need? What is my next step? What should my strategy be? Water. This reminds me, the first thing I think of is go hydrate yourself. But I want to tell you guys this story about one of the very first tarot readings that I ever did for somebody else when I was on the brink of becoming a professional tarot reader. So suddenly the pressure was on because at that point you're starting to take money for it, right? So I was doing some practice readings on some people and somebody came to me. So this person was in college. They were going to school. They were going to engineering school. And I asked them if they had a question they wanted to ask, and they said that they were curious about what exact field or avenue of engineering, sort of what should their focus be and where should they zero in on. And in my mind, I was like, oh my God, I don't know anything about engineering. I'm not even sure exactly what that is. Is that building planes or making toys or that could be basically anything, right? And this was such an important thing for me to realize that when you're a tarot reader, you do not have to have this encyclopedic knowledge of the world. To answer a question about engineering, I didn't need to know every single thing about engineering and what that is. That would be crazy to think that I would be expected to know all of that. And if this person wanted to ask somebody that was an expert at engineering, then they would go to an expert, not to a tarot reader. So I'm shuffling the cards and I'm like, please tell me something that gives me some kind of an idea. So I did a one card pull and I pulled the Ace of Cups. And any of you who have done readings for somebody else know that feeling when you are just staring at the card and you're just, in your mind, you're going, I have no idea what this means or how this applies to this person's question. Part of this is why I don't really have people ask questions anymore. I have them think about their question, and then I just give them the reading and tell them what I see, and then we can kind of talk about it later on. But at the time that I was doing this, I was still having the person ask the question out loud. And so I'm looking at the Ace of Cups and I'm thinking, how does this have anything to do with engineering? I don't know. I don't see it. And I remembered an idea that I had when I was learning, and it was when you get stuck with the cards, when you're looking and you're just like not getting anything, just go literal. Because a lot of times the cards, we're trying to interpret the symbolic meaning, the metaphor, what the underlying message is, and sometimes it's just not that deep. If you get stuck, if you're trying, I usually suggest pull back and just go literal. And so I did that, and I looked at this card, and all I saw was water. See why I'm telling this story now? And I looked at the guy, and I said to him, you know what? I'm sorry. Of course, I was super apologetic. I said, I am having a really hard time getting a message for you. All I see is water. And the guy goes, oh, that's perfect. That answers my question. And I was like, what? How does that have anything to do with your question about your engineering? And he said, well, what I was thinking about doing was studying aqueducts and municipal waterways. And that just gave me the validation that that's the avenue that I should go down. And I was just like, what? I can't believe I just answered this guy's question, because never in a million years would I have put it together. And it also is the fact that when you're doing a reading for somebody, you have to let them take the information and put it together with what it is that their question is. And you don't always have to know how it fits together, as long as the person knows. And if they don't know right away, eventually it's going to make sense to them. Let's take a look at another card. And let's say that this is for something that's going to happen today that we don't know about yet. So as we're moving through our day, and we might encounter something where we pause, or we feel that we are not sure which way to go, or we encounter a little roadblock, what can we do at that moment to proceed? This is a good one. Don't be afraid of cliches. I'm just going to let that sit. I'm not going to try to interpret it, and I'll just leave it for you guys. And I like this one. Gardening, not architecture. And I will try to interpret that a little bit, because gardening I oftentimes think of as letting things develop organically and then pruning away what is not needed, while architecture is building things up. So at the same time that Schmidt was doing his thoughts behind the thoughts, Eno was doing the same thing. He was making his own handwritten deck, and he was writing down all of these ideas for dealing with creative blocks in the studio. And they just one day both sat down and were like, hey, I'm working on this thing. I want to share it with you. And then the other one was like, I'm working on almost a similar thing. You know, it's called being tapped into the collective consciousness, the creative consciousness. And I really do believe in that. And I think that's why different people across the world can be working on similar things at the same time without having any knowledge of each other. And so, like I said, they joined forces and they put out this deck. Now, Oblique Strategies has inspired musicians and bands, and everyone from Bowie to Coldplay, the band Phoenix, and MGMT have all used this deck when they were recording their albums. And there was a few other editions that came out up until the 1980s, and at that time Schmidt passed away. Now, since then, there's been a 4th edition, and then the edition that I have is the 5th edition. That's 2001. And in 2013, a limited edition version came out, only 500. And one of the differences is that it's in a burgundy box. And here's my little secret tip for you guys. I just saw it today on eBay, and it's going for only $25 right now. So for a super limited edition version, if you want to get your hands on one of these, now that's just where the bid was at. So it's probably going to go up from there, but that's half the price right now of what I paid for this deck. And that is a much more limited one. So you guys might want to go get it. I'm not going to be bidding on it. I hope one of you guys gets it. And if you do, message me and let me know. And one of the reasons why I really wanted to share this deck is also to show the importance of something that allows this idea of divination to reach a broader audience. And I think that we're at an interesting time with tarot when there are more people that are opening up to the idea. And there is a certain element where magical things right now are kind of on trend and becoming popular. There's more decks than ever being created, which is fantastic. And I think that a lot of people are realizing that tarot can be a very, very helpful tool. And it doesn't need to be some kind of weird, creepy, spooky thing. And some of the old superstitions and warnings are kind of falling away. But there are still negative beliefs about things that have anything to do with divination. And some people that comes from their religious beliefs or their upbringing. But I just think that a deck like this can be really important when it reaches the masses and kind of helps people to see that sometimes what seems random can actually be really, really helpful and useful. Let's just take a look. I'm gonna pull a little section out of the center of these, and we're gonna look at a few more cards. Always first steps. Ask people to work against their better judgment. Okay, well that would be challenging. Accept advice. Oh, yes, that's a good one, right? How about this? Look closely at the most embarrassing details and amplify them. Yes. What are you really thinking about just now? Incorporate. And our last one that we'll look at from Oblique Strategies for Creative Solutions to Problems is this one. Tidy up. So I'd just like to take a moment and shout you guys out. Tanya P, Happy Hermit, Tarot Map, Kathy K, Jessica C, Rock My Tarot, Tina D, Boy Diviner, Punky V Eclectic, The Truth in Story, Atypical Tarot, Amy Oakley, Rachel M, Annie M82, Celia R, Justine T, Sherry Bug, Dina J, B P Sara, Bridget Walsh, Four Foes, Dawn Donovan, Joy Noel, Miguel P, Natasha, Rodriguez Mystic, Karen W, Lena L, Lindsay K, And the Moon Loves Me, Ruby Brianna, Kim K, Esme Lopez, Andrea, Lori Frank, Ruff, Natasha P, and Learn Tarot with me. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for subscribing, for watching, for sharing, for liking, for doing all the things. I hope you guys enjoyed this look at this cool deck, Oblique Strategies. I hope you guys get your hands on one, and let me know what you think of it in the comments below, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.